In the previous video, you were introduced to the development environment that we will be using throughout the rest of this series. In this video, you will be able to put those tools to use by creating your first Magento module. Let's get started. We will start by adding our module's code to the Magento folder structure. It will go in App, Code, Local, where we add a folder for our namespace, and within there add a folder for our module. In this case, we will simply call it Example. Inside of our modules folder will go a collection of subfolders. The etc subfolder will hold the configuration files for our module. The primary config file is simply config.xml. That looks something like this. In our config.xml file, we're specifying the module name, which is composed of the namespace mastering Magento, followed by an underscore, followed by the module name, which is example. Here we're specifying a version of 0. Later on in the global section, we define the class path for our models, blocks, and helpers. To complete the setup of our module, we're going to create the rest of the folder structure as well as the default helper. I'll first create a folder for my model classes, and then a folder for my block classes. Another folder that our module will eventually use is the controllers folder. This can be challenging to remember because controllers is the only folder that's all lowercase. Lastly, let's create the helper folder. By default, Magento is looking for a data helper in each module that it loads. This file will be located in the helper folder in a file called data.php. It will look something like this. If you look at the name of our class, you see that it starts with the namespace, followed by the module name example, followed by helper, which is the folder that we're in, followed by data, which is the name of our file without the PHP file extension. All helper classes should extend the Mage Core Helper Abstract class. We can use our ctags plugin, which you installed in an earlier video, to navigate to the definition of that class in order to investigate which functions we're inheriting. If I use my Ctrl-R shortcut key to bring up the list of function names, you can see there's a variety of functionality that we inherit. For now, our Magento helper can simply be an empty class. The mere existence of this class will allow Magento to successfully load the module, but there's still one final piece in order for Magento to properly load our module. We need to add an XML file to the app, etc, modules folder, which tells Magento to actually load our module. The file will be named as our module is, with the namespace preceding the module name. It's going to look something like this. Here we are simply, again, referring to the module by name, specifying that it's active, and telling Magento which code pool to use. This code pool determines which folder in app code Magento will be looking for this module. We can also define dependencies for our module. In this case, our module doesn't depend on any other functionality in Magento. Once this module is saved, it should be loaded by Magento. Let's fire up the admin and take a look. Once you log into the backend, you can verify that a module has loaded by going to System Configuration and then scrolling to the very bottom of the page and clicking on the Advanced link. Inside of the field set called Disable Modules Output, you should see listed all the various modules that are loaded into the system. As we scroll down the page, we see our own module listed here, so we know that it's been loaded into the system. So to recap, we started out by creating the folder structure for our module in app code local. You learned what the etc configuration file looks like and which configuration files are necessary to actually load the module into Magento. Coming up next, we're going to make our module useful by adding a new controller to the front end of Magento, so stay tuned.